having to do something else in Massachusetts and in California, something else in what have you, Virginia and Texas. And so there may well be, we'll have to see, but this is a space that I'm watching, push from the companies at some point to have one law for America, the country where they are incorporated, and the country where their people are employed, and the country where a lot of their services and products are used. So there's still a lot of dynamism in the United States, and I think the more pressing the harms become, the more likely it is that Americans will wake up and will ask for guardrails, especially around the use of AI now, that is being supercharged without much consideration for shorter and long-term risks.
So, when we came under attack in the Philippines, so this would have been 2016, so almost a decade ago, I knew that our problem in the Philippines didn't begin in the Philippines. And that I couldn't really fight frontally in the Philippines because then the weaponization of law. I had 11 criminal charges filed against me in 14 months, right? So where did I go? I actually first went to America because what started it is the river of lies. We're swimming in a river of lies, right? So I wanted to shut down the factory of lies. That's the goal. Factory of lies being the tech companies by design. So remember that the reason we're here is because in the 1990s, America decided to pass the 1996 Communications Decency Act, which essentially gives impunity to the tech companies, right? And that's still what they're using. So I tried, and I'm part of the Council for Responsible Social Media, and like Marichka, we focus on the states because that's where we've seen progress. There is movement, especially after January 6th. Because Silicon Valley since came home to roost in the violence on Capitol Hill on January 6th, right? And of course in Brazil on January 8th, a year later, right? So there is online violence, is real world violence. Everyone be careful about this. But it wasn't enough. Because fear, anger, and hate can manipulate us. And there's a second Trump administration. That's partly enabled. We didn't talk a lot about electoral integrity, but from 2016 until 2020, until today, every single election has been manipulated. Do we have agency? And the only country that actually voided its elections is Romania, right? And anyway, we can talk about Romania later. But here's the last part. I'd say I gave up on the U.S. I'm the vice chair of the Internet Governance Forum at the UN. At the UN this time, about a month ago, we rolled out AI red lines. And it is multilateral, and they've taken it up, and even China wants AI red lines, right? So the member states seem to agree on that. Now it goes down to people like Marichka. What are the details of something like this? Demand your rights. Demand that you are not insidiously manipulated, that your children, that we can actually work on climate change. Here's my last thing. This is not going to change unless you demand your rights. And whether it is in Germany or in the Philippines or in the United States, if there are Americans, are there any Americans here? Oh my God, no Americans. Yeah, okay, two. Why are Americans so slow to hold the line? Right? Hold on to your rights, because clawing them back is so much harder.
Okay, wow, okay. Now, it's such an interesting discussion that I have to break the focus because I said we will come back to that AI working group, and looking at the clock, we only have 30 seconds. We're not going to have that in that time. But Marichka, your last thoughts about this.
Well, I really didn't want to trump Maria on this last comment on Americans because, frankly, they have a lot of opportunity to also take on this tech challenge. But let me bring it back to Germany because we're in Germany. Germany is such an important country in Europe. And Germans, because of the dark pages of their history, have a lived experience with what surveillance means, with what repression through information and technology means, what propaganda can lead to. And so this lived experience translated into political leadership is crucial, because a lot of other countries have either not digested their own history the way Germans have, or they just have had a different path and don't appreciate it so much. And I think the Philippines are now a part of that group as well. If you see what could go wrong, you know better what you need to defend. And so maybe this is also an appeal not only to you all as tech users and citizens, but also to the government of Germany, which feels like it's still finding the clarity of its compass. And I really hope that Friedrich Merz will take this on with his team and with his government as a key priority, which will also help him leave a lasting legacy of leadership. And I think Germans owe it to their history to develop a future that reflects their values and that protects everyone, Germans and by proxy Europeans, from a repetition of this kind of history towards fascism, where propaganda, new technologies, surveillance are used to repress. I really hope we can count on the Germans for this.
Okay, well, that was a clear call to action. I've never heard one. Thank you very much to both of you for a very, very exciting and inspiring conversation that we have here. We all have agency. We need to use it. Write letters to your MPs, but also, of course, buy the books by Maria Ressa and Marie-Chris Farke. Yours is going to be out next week. Maria's is already out. So thank you very much for being here and enjoy the rest of the week.